My name is Stuart Schlossman. I'm president and founder of MS Views and News, and we're here tonight to do MS NeuroTV. And before we get on to go any further, I want everybody to know that there are specific topics, though, for tonight's program. Again, we are sponsored for tonight's program by Bristol Myers Squibb and Biogen, but to talk about the products, to talk about the program tonight, we have specific topics. And Jessica Thomas is a licensed clinical social worker, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a moment, but she cannot answer questions about like what medications you're using, or she can't answer anything to do with COVID and the vaccines, or about COVID and your medications. She will not be able to do any of that. So if you ask any questions that relate to your symptom management, well, that's, again, this is not what her specialty is. So she cannot answer any of those questions. So that being said, let me just continue on here with what tonight's program is about. First off, let me let you know, Jessica Thomas is a licensed clinical social worker. She's out of North Carolina. She has multiple sclerosis, which makes everything that she's doing that much more great, okay? And she's been working in the field with MS patients for greater than 16 years. So for anybody that's having, a few people are writing in that they're having problems with the audio, I'm going to ask you to sign back out and sign back in, and you'll be able to get your audio up and working, or turn on your audio. Maybe your audio is off on your laptops, okay? All right, that being said, let's go forward now and welcome Jessica. She's going to speak with you for 30 minutes, okay? We're not going to break it up with questions in between. She's going to speak with you for 30 minutes. And then we're going to open it back up to take all your questions. And so please keep your questions to what she's talking about. Okay. Thank you. Hello, Jessica. Have a great time.
Hi there, everyone. Good evening. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys. I know that it has been a heck of a week, a lot going on, and actually a heck of a year, or last year anyways. But today we're going to talk about emotional wellness, and this is my passion. My passion is to help people live well with their disease, and while we often focus on the physical aspects of MS, I'm going to focus on the mental and emotional. So today we're going to talk a little bit about it from the perspective of MS, and then I'm going to also talk with you guys about it in the realm of everything that's going on in today's world. We're not going to talk specifics. We're not going to talk politics. We're going to talk feelings and emotions and how to manage them. So emotional wellness, as you can see here, touches all other kinds of wellness. And it refers to an awareness, an understanding, and an acceptance of your emotions. For people that have the capacity of good emotional wellness, they're able to manage their emotions effectively, and they're able to navigate through challenges and changes. But emotional and mental wellness is just a part of it. It goes with social, physical, vocational, spiritual, and financial. So we're going to move on, and we're going to talk a little bit specific of to emotional wellness and MS. So if I was in front of you guys today, or if I was able to see you, I would have you raise your hands and tell me, has anyone on the call today experienced anxiety or depression, or had a hard time adjusting to their diagnosis? I know for myself, through my own course of having MS, that I've had anxiety, and that's it's something that's managed now, but it's definitely been a part of my journey. And having a chronic illness can bring all sorts of feelings. It can bring fear, sadness, anxiety. There's a lot of uncertainty. I know in the counseling, when I speak to people, often we talk about, things like, am I going to get better? How is this going to impact my life? Will I need help from other people? How will it affect my relationships, etc.? Caring for both your physical health and your emotional well-being can help you better cope with chronic disease. And so we're going to talk about, with MS, specifically, we're going to talk about some tips. But when we think about MS and emotional wellness, you think about that you can actually have just emotional changes to having the disease, right? So organically, there can be lesions in your brain that can impact some of your emotional capacity. But then also just things might be a little bit harder, or you might be dealing with transitions. You may be newly diagnosed, and mental illness such as anxiety or depression can be very common with MS. But then also medications like steroids can impact your mood, etc. And then just living with stress. So we're going to talk briefly about tips for improving mental wellness. And these are very specific also to MS and to chronic disease just in general. So if we can help people to manage their chronic disease, if you can go back to the previous slide, that would be great. We can help you live well and feel a little bit more mentally well. So below, what I'm going to share are some tips to help you work towards your emotional well-being. One is learning and understanding your condition. Stuart does such a great job with MS Views and News and this MS NeuroTV, which is awesome. This gives you a place to learn and understand more about MS. But having knowledge and education about your disease is going to help you with mental wellness, because the more we learn and the more we understand it, we feel empowered. And then finding the right provider for you. This is really incredibly important. If you're able to have a provider that you trust, then you feel more than likely you'll feel comfortable expressing yourself and feeling comfortable with asking questions. I encourage you to speak to your provider about your emotional health. Your provider needs to know how you're feeling, both physically and emotionally. Coping with chronic illness can increase stress of everyday life, and managing your emotions is an incredibly important thing to do. And then your roles may change as a part of living with MS. And MS, I don't know if you have experienced this, but it may shift your priorities a little bit. I know for me it has for me in some aspects as well. You may need to expand and build your emotional support team. You may decide that for mental wellness, that working is not compatible with your disease, that it's too draining, too taxing. When we're living with MS, we need to define our circle of support. So I think of two circles. I think one is our healthcare team, and knowing that you're in the center of your healthcare team. But then also, who is your emotional support team? And the emotional support team is really is important as well. My emotional support team is relatively small, and yours may be much bigger than mine. But having an emotional support team is important. Another tip is to acknowledge the limitations that we have with MS. This is a hard thing to do. But if we can identify the limitations that we have, then we can also find modifications. We can find other ways of doing things. But if we're fighting against the challenges or limitations that we have, then it's going to make it harder, and we're going to end up very frustrated. And then the last tip I'm going to give you for this part is exercise. Exercise is so incredibly important. Exercise does a couple of things. One, it improves dopamine, and with that's a happiness chemical, and endorphins. And we tend to feel better emotionally when we exercise. Exercise also helps us to close the stress cycle. And what I mean by that is that anytime that we have a lot of stress that we're experiencing, we've got to deal with that stress, because there's the stress, which is the way that our body holds the stress that we're experiencing, and then there's the stressor. Often, the stressor will go away, but if we don't deal with the stress that's locked in our bodies, then we tend to build up a lot of continued stress, and that's where we might burn out with our emotions. So exercise is one of the best ways to help with your physical and emotional health. And I know with MS, exercise may look different from person to person, and it may need to be modified. But it is a great thing for us to consider incorporating into our everyday, just to help manage our emotions. So I'm going to move to emotional wellness in the events of today's world. And so I'm going to do this in a way where, again, we're not talking about the specifics, but I can tell you from last year to this year, we've been through a lot, right? Having MS was kind of probably just enough for some of us. And I'm sure that many of you have experienced other challenges, other things that have happened during this past year, on top of the other things that have been going on in the world. So we're going to talk about some strategies, and we're going to talk about some things that can help us during this time. But first, I want to pause, and I want to talk about this sliver of silver linings here. So I work with a lot of people with chronic disease, and many of my patient population also has MS. And what I've learned during this time is that, you know, we are a population of people that we already have some mental flexibility already built in, because we've had to, with MS, learn how to be more flexible. We've had to change plans. We know what it's like to plan on doing something over here and then not feel as well, and have to modify it or change it or not go. So that skill we get to bring with us to the table as we're dealing with things right now. Also, another silver lining is that things have become more inclusive. I have patients that have been able to, prior to, have not been able to be a part of the knitting club, but because of video technology and because of the pandemic, all the knitting clubs are virtual, and so they're able to participate in something that wasn't really accessible to begin with. And I'm hoping that that's going to continue. And then another silver lining is that there's a lot more understanding and compassion. And people with MS, we generally as a population have been through a lot, and so we bring a lot of empathy during this period of time, I know. So we're going to talk about emotions during this period of time. So I want you guys, everyone that's on the call, to think of two words, two feelings. How are you feeling today? And I'll give you an example. So today I have felt tired. It was a busy day at work, and I didn't sleep as well last night. There was a lot of noise going on. So I was tired today, and then I'm also very hopeful about some progress with patients that I'm working with, but also hopeful about the vaccine and hopeful about some things right now. So I want you to think about, what are the two things that you're feeling? And as you think of that, I want you to know that during this time, it is very understandable and very common that we can have two feelings that kind of, they contrast. You know, I had a positive emotion and kind of a negative emotion. I'm tired, but I'm hopeful. You can be teary and at peace. You know, it's okay. During this period of time, it is very common that we can have two emotions that live together, and they don't look like they would ever be friends, but they're our emotions, and they are where we are. But it's also there to show you how exhausting that can be, to be in a place where we're going through so many different emotions, throughout the days, the weeks, etc. So we're going to talk a little bit about fostering resiliency and emotional wellness. This is my passion. I love to help people find ways and strategies and tools to help them through challenges. Now, I want you to think about resilience as, if we were to look it up in the dictionary, it would say the ability to bounce back like a ball. And even on the slide, I have something about bouncing back. But I want us to consider it a little bit different. I consider resilience with MS as something that we're working through. So it's thinking of it in terms of internal flexibility, and also thinking of it as like a skill, something that we can all build, something that we are all capable of tapping into. And that is really important to think. These things that I'm going to share, these are all things that can help us be resilient, and these are things that we all can tap into if we choose to. So I'm going to start off by talking about practicing gratitude. Now, this is one of my go-to strategies, and I do this every single day. Now, I didn't always do this, but during COVID, I can tell you, and during this pandemic, it has been an incredible tool. So what I do is I wake up and I ask myself, what is it today that I can be thankful for? Another way of thinking about this is hunting the good. So as you go through the day, kind of hunting the good. Now, I know that for many of us, our day-to-days are looking so different than they did, a year and a half ago. I know I don't really leave my living room or my office area much during the day. So when I am hunting the good in my day, I can tell you little things that I do that speak to me. So I love a good cup of coffee in the morning. So if I notice that I have a really good cup of coffee, I might make a point to say, I'm really thankful for that cup of coffee. Or maybe I have a good interaction with my son. He's a teenager, and teenagers are kind of tough sometimes. I might jot down, that was a really good talk with my son. If I take a walk outside, and I know back in the fall, this happened, and I wrote it down. I saw a beautiful fall leaf. Again, I'm in the Carolinas, so it's a little bit cooler, but it slowly fell to the ground, and I just was glad that I, at that moment, was able to stop and enjoy what I was seeing. Now, for practicing gratitude, this is something that I have many of my patients do because I think it's a very healthy activity. And during this period of time, I have been recording it. So I'm not going to show you the details, but this is a notebook that I keep, and I just record gratitude in it. And I make sure if I see something that I'm thankful for or that is standing out, I put it and I write it down. So that way I can look and visibly see there are a lot of good things happening around me. I encourage you guys to track gratitude in this way. Now, another strategy, and let's stay on this slide, but I'm still going to talk about gratitude, but I want to stay on this slide, is this right here. So what you see right here is a jar with pearls. And so the pearls right here, they represent all the good little things that happen during the course of your day, of your week, of your month, etc. And this jar has been sitting on my desk for quite a while. But also what you're going to see is you see some turquoise beads in there, I think. And so those beads represent challenges like, I'll put COVID, I will put my MS, my fatigue, also challenges. My son is at school at home, and so we have some challenges there. So what you see is that within all of my challenges are also lots of good things. Now, I can take out all of the challenges and isolate them and decide just to look at the things that are wrong or hard or difficult, or I can allow my challenges to also be balanced and uniquely sit with the good stuff too. And so I show this as a visual because this is a really, really good example of how you can see that we can add good to help outweigh some of the challenges, and that we're responsible for the pearls that we put in every single day. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is creating a calm environment. So one more slide up. So with creating a calm environment, this is, something that is really important right now. We're home a lot more, but I'm talking about creating a calm environment literally where you are, but then also mentally. What things can you do? What things can you put in place to help foster calm? And I know for many people, it might be limiting the news. That definitely can create a lot of angst or anxiety. For some people, it might be changing a little bit of their environment, maybe having a room that they can go to that's kind of like quiet and chill, where you can just relax. It may also, I know this year, my family loved watching football, but after a really long day of seeing patients and talking about hard things, it was really hard for me just to go straight into the living room with them and watch football. And so I found that I needed to do some different things. I needed to kind of go into a room that was quiet, and I needed to listen to maybe some music or kind of unwind before I went out to watch football with them. So that creating a calm environment is a tool. Now we're going to talk about maintaining a schedule and routine. This right here is one of the lifesavers during this period of time for so many people that I work with. We operate usually better when we have some sort of schedule or routine, and when there is a lot of chaos going on in the world. One thing that we can count on is the things that we're doing. And so I don't mean it has to be a hardcore, really strict schedule, but maybe a routine where, throughout the day that, you do one thing where you connect to somebody else with distance and appropriateness in that sense, but or COVID safe. And then maybe you do one thing that's physically active. Maybe you do one thing that that you'll be thankful that you did later, or that a small accomplished task. Maybe you'll take a shower and attend to your hygiene needs. So just thinking of small things that you can do to maintain a routine and a schedule. Now, the next thing, I know I'm talking so fast, there's a lot of resources here, but the reason why I'm doing this is because I want you guys to have a couple of tools, because it's not one size fits all, and there's going to be something that probably connects with with each of you. And so the next thing I'm going to share is the concept of holding emotional pain lightly. And this is using a therapy approach that I use often in chronic disease, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. But the concept of holding emotional pain lightly is the idea that while there's a lot of difficult things going on right now, that we make space for some of those feelings and emotions that we may be experiencing. So this right here is just representing maybe a feeling. And I'm letting this feeling, so maybe at one point it was a feeling of sadness. As I went through my day, I'm letting the sadness kind of sit with me. It doesn't need to take over my day or be bigger than my day, but I need to acknowledge that there's sadness. And with this concept, what we're doing is we're acknowledging our feelings and we're letting them sit with us, but what we're not doing is we're not, drinking alcohol and trying to numb it, or trying to make the emotions go away because they're uncomfortable. We're just giving them space to kind of work through them, letting them sit with us a little bit, and then finding a tool, some sort of distraction, something that can help us kind of cope with it. Maybe it's taking a walk, maybe it's talking to a friend, maybe it's having a hot cup of tea, or connecting with somebody else, whatever it is that you need to do, but making sure that we're not ignoring the emotions that we're feeling and that we're not numbing them. Some people right now we're finding that are drinking a lot of alcohol, and that's been a very maladaptive way of coping. Some people are overeating, and that's maladaptive, and I understand that because I've had to kind of stop myself from eating extra candy at this time because it's been stressful. But making space, it's okay that we have emotions, even if they're uncomfortable, we can work through them. So the next tool I am going to go to is coping with worry. So I'm going to show you a tool. So this right here is what I call a worry box. So instead of holding on to all the things that I'm worrying about, what I do is I have this box. It came from Goodwill a long time ago. It's not too fancy. But inside it, I write down things that I'm worried about. And the point is that I write them down, I put them in here, and I close the box and I let the box hold some of my worries. People who use a worry box tend to be able to learn how to let go of some of the things that are feeling heavy or some of the things that they're worrying about that they can't do anything about. I encourage you to consider using something like a worry box. Or if you're dealing with a lot of worry, to maybe say, you know what, every day at 5 o'clock, schedule time to worry. I'll worry for 20 minutes about it, or I'll worry for 30 minutes. And then when I'm done worrying about it, I'm going to stop. And I know that tomorrow, if I want to worry more about it, then I can. But it's finding a way to process and compartmentalize some of the worrying so you don't carry it all day long going forward. And so care versus worry, I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's really important. With care, if we're thinking of the emotion of care, care is a positive emotion. Care is an active emotion that we can do towards something that is important to us. So wearing a mask, it's a sign of caring, right? It's showing that you care. Worrying is a negative emotion, and it can be really hard because worry can weigh us down, whereas care can give us like an actionable item that we can do to help. Worry really just creates a lot of anxiety. So I wonder if you find yourself in a great state of worry, can you transition yourself? Can you gently move yourself to a place of care? Now, and could you try that? So we're going to move on to a couple other tools. One is talking to your doctor. If you're finding during this time, even if you're not during this time, but with MS in general, you are experiencing problems, with your emotional wellness, talk to your doctor, please. Utilize counseling. I want you to know it's more accessible now than ever. I spend my days in video therapy sessions with patients, and I get to see a lot of patients that prior to this period of time maybe wouldn't have had the energy to come in, but to get on a video teletherapy call has been very easy. And so, but it's very accessible. So I encourage you to utilize counseling if you need it. There's also, you can go to YouTube. Look up progressive relaxation or visual imagery or guided imagery exercises. Those are 3 different tools that you can use that can help you calm, help you relax your body, relax your mind. If you have Netflix, Headspace, which is an app that I use for meditation, they have come out with a series of meditation exercises on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, I encourage you and I challenge you tonight to look up Headspace and see if you can do some of the meditation activities. They are fantastic. Also utilizing apps such as Headspace or Calm. Many of them have free aspects if you cannot afford to purchase the actual app. Also, if you have Sirius Radio, they have a Calm station. And YouTube. Just going to that as a resource for relaxation activities. Relaxation and meditation are incredibly helpful, but here's the deal. If you're having a period of time where you're having a lot of noise, a lot of anxiety, or a lot of sadness, if you don't do anything you're not going to get any change, zero change. But maybe with that much effort, minimal effort, by putting on a meditation, by sitting down and allowing yourself to do it, you might actually feel a bit better. And you might feel that that noise that was super noisy will slow down and kind of go away for a little bit. And then the last tool here that I'm going to talk about is recreation. Now, it's a weird tool, I feel like, in some ways, because people could easily say, why should I be doing things that are fun or playing right now? Because it doesn't feel like a very playful world, right? It doesn't. But recreation, doing things that are fun and that you enjoy, is really good for you. I spend about 20 to 30 minutes a day in the evenings usually playing, and I'll explain. I'm not going to play for you. I got to find it. It's right here. Sorry. But during the beginning of the pandemic, I got a ukulele. I'm not going to play for you because I don't play well at all. But I make sure that I spend time in the evenings playing with it. It's really good for cognition because I'm learning something that I'm not musical. So I'm learning something that but I'm having fun. And right now in this world, we, with all the things that are going on, we need to have fun. And we need to make sure that we give ourselves space for that too, and those positive emotions. So we're going to talk a little bit about positive emotions and exploring how they build our resilience. And these are the emotional resources that we need for coping. And we're going to explore ways to connect ourselves with things that fuel positive emotions. So I'm going to list a couple of emotions. So the emotion of hope, it has a strong correlation with effort and self-regulation. And that makes sense, right? If someone feels hopeless, they may not want to get up and and take a bath or a shower for they might not want to get up and get going. But hope has a strong correlation with effort and self-regulation. Enjoyment is correlated with interest and determination. So I enjoy playing the ukulele, even though I'm bad at it. But because I enjoy it, I'm more apt to continue on with it, and I'm interested while I'm doing it. Happiness or joy has been shown to foster problem solving and creativity. Now, I can tell you when I'm stressed or unhappy, I don't solve problems very well because my cognition's not even at its best. So from an MS perspective, when I'm feeling a little bit happier and a little bit more at peace, I tend to be better at solving problems, as you would too. And then calm has a positive impact on our immune system. We hear a lot about how stress is not helpful for MS or for any chronic disease, but being calm can have a positive impact. So I challenge you, what activities can you do? What can you do that will connect you to a sense of hope or enjoyment, a feeling of happiness or calm? And I challenge you to create room in your day to be able to do things that connect you to those activities. So we're going to move from, we'll talk about respite and recreation. I didn't realize I put recreation on there twice, but let's talk a little bit about respite. Giving yourself space to just relax, to maybe get out of the hustle and bustle if you're working, or to get away from the news, to get away from giving yourself emotional space to kind of take a break. I know for me, one thing I have found great value in during this time is respite through either being in nature, or through television and movies and escaping in that way, or audiobooks. But there is great value in being able to have a sense of relaxation and also a sense of recreation during this time, like I talked about earlier. And then the very last item I'm going to talk about before we turn it over to Stuart for questions is making space for hope. This is a tough period of time, and I wish I could make it a lot easier, but I can't. It just is what it is, and it's been a tough period. But I think that we can also channel things that give us a sense of hope, and also making space for it as well. For example, when I talk with many of my patients, I talk about how right now, and I'll show this to you. This is, well, I don't think I can. I have a little, maybe I'll show you this way, there, like a little light. That there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, the pandemic is going on for a while, and we do have the vaccine, and that feels positive. But there are some really positive things. You know, I feel like my son will be back in school full time next year. So I definitely know that the plan is that I'll be back in my therapy office probably by the time that summer rolls around. So I see that things are going to change, and I'm allowing myself that even though we're in many difficult, several different months that are going to be difficult for us, that I will turn and I will make space for hope, and remembering that that things will not always be as they are right now. So I hope that I gave you something, a tool of some sort that was helpful for MS and for this period of time. I want you to know that all the tools that I shared, the tools of resilience, they can be used just to help with mental wellness with MS. They end up at this moment in time being very, very helpful and effective for coping during everything. So I'm going to turn this back over to Stuart, and I believe that we'll have some questions.
Hey, everybody. Yes, I'm back. And Jessica, that was really, really good. I mean, there's great suggestions there you gave for many, many people. And sorry if there's a little static here. Great suggestions that you gave. And for those that wonder how they're going to even remember all that Jessica spoke about, please remember that this will be published to our YouTube channel, hopefully before Sunday, okay? In fact, now that my producer just heard that, I'm sure he's going to try really, really hard to make sure that it's online before Sunday. Right, Bill? Okay, great. All right, by the way, Jessica, when you were talking about headspace, I kept doing this with my, video camera here, creating less headspace above me. All right, enough with the joking around. So one person wrote at the end of what you were just speaking about, with regard to mental wellness tends to be very low on the daily to-do list. Where and how can this be moved to a priority?
Okay, great question. So you have to make room for it. Yes, it can definitely get nudged down very easy, right? But what I think is that you make time for it. So what is it that you need to do? Is it, for your mental wellness, to check in? Is it that you need to actively deal with some of the stressors that we talked about by like walking or exercise or something, making a point to make sure that you're closing that stress cycle that I talked about? Or is it that you start your mornings off with with a meditation, or that you make space in your schedule that you don't negotiate, that self-care is to be done. It's really tough. I'll give you a really quick example, but the other night, it's about self-care and sleep. Now, I am sure that there are enough people on this webinar that have had challenges in sleep. But a couple nights ago, I laid in bed, and it had been a day that was really full, and I had so much noise going on. And when I say noise, that's my version of anxiety. I was just kind of really awake. And I had laid down. It had been about an hour, and I had not fallen asleep. And I couldn't even pinpoint really what one thing was, but I just knew it was a lot of things. And as I laid there, I had to ask myself, either I stay and I play this game for 2 hours or 3 hours and never get, to sleep. And then when I fall asleep, I'll wake back up because I'm stressed. Or do I just stop it right now and I do a meditation and exercise? And that's exactly what I did. And it helped me to be able to fall asleep. But if I didn't negotiate that little piece of self-care, if I didn't make time for it in that moment, I would have been challenged for the rest of the evening and probably the next day because of it.
It's true. So before I go onward, I just want to tell you, a couple of people just want to let you know how amazing you are and thanking you so much. So I wanted to get past those. And another person is asking, though, or saying that they have been looking for a person just like this, Jessica, and have struggled to find anybody that will return calls. Do you have any suggestions for them? This is from somebody named Pam.
Okay, so what I would recommend is one, if you have an MS specialist to see if they or your neurologist to see, is there someone that they recommend? Often there's not a lot of people like me that specialize in MS. But often your neurologist may have a connection with a psychologist or a clinical social worker or a counselor that has worked with them and that has experience. The other option is that you can call the National MS Society. I am a Partners in MS Care for mental health, and that's a certification that I have taken the time to be very intentional to get. So you may actually have a Partners in MS Care in your state. And right now during the pandemic, now remember, sliver of silver lining is what I'm saying by this, is that video teletherapy has been approved. And so if you have someone in your state that you normally couldn't drive to, you might be able to do some video teletherapy during this time.
Okay, thank you. Another person, I'm going to give you the good stuff that people are saying in between all the questions. Maria wants you to know what a great idea about the worry box.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Now there's a question from first name B, just the letter B. I guess you could have that. All right. So how do you create an emotional support group?
Okay, so your what I call it is an emotional support team. So with your emotional support team, remember that from person to person, they look very different. Your team might be big and your team might be small. One of the ways that I recommend if you don't have an immediate family, because sometimes family members will be on there, but we also need people like us, people like me, like Stuart, people that have MS that understand what you're going through. I highly recommend looking at a support group, attending a support group with other people with MS, so you can build your network of people that may that you understand some aspects of what you're going through. I tend to have a very small support team, and some people have really big ones, and I think it's about what you're comfortable with. But I know one of the most important things is a couple of friends that I have that have MS. I need to be able to connect with them and say, this is so crazy, I feel this way, how are you feeling, and being able to connect. But I would start with a support group if you're feeling challenged in that area.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Another person just wrote, named Cindy. I have hope right now, but it's not a calm hope. It's an angry hope, as my body is in full attack on me mode. I'm a fighter, so there's no calm. It is battle time. What can you suggest for her?
I would suggest finding calm and peace. Meditation, yes, we're all fighting our disease, right? But we know that stress and MS and stress and negative emotions are really bad for us. I would recommend doing meditations. I also would recommend talking with a counselor. So you have someone on your team as you're fighting this battle and as you're navigating all the different emotions that you feel with dealing with MS, because there's a lot of emotions that we feel. And I would highly recommend counseling, so that way you're not alone in this journey.
Thank you. All right, next one. What do you do to inform people who are obsessed with the news, CNN specifically, or Fox News or whatever it is, but people who just can't get away from the TV and all they're doing is watching the news all day long, like something's going to change between, well, I guess it can, but go ahead, your turn.
All right. So this is a common problem, and I'm seeing this a lot. I've seen people that come in during the pandemic that one of their as we broke down what they're doing in their daily, they are watching way too much news and they are way too anxious. And so what we've done is we make very intentional plans to reduce the amount of news, because we want everybody needs to be well informed, right? I want you to be able to be connected. We don't want to be grounded from the news, but we need to maybe spend only 30 minutes a day, or an hour a day, whatever it is, but limiting it and spending other energies doing other things, limiting social media, etc., making it like intentional efforts to walk away from that.
Sure, thank you. And what do you suggest for people who want to like possibly use playing games such as Words with Friends or Scrabble or whatever, just to do that as a calming, to get away from the stress, just to break up the monotony of a day? Do you suggest anything like that?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I play this like bubble popping game on my phone. It's ridiculous, but I enjoy it. It's a little bit of stress relief. I've had so many patients that have done the game, and I don't know this know that much about it, but Animal Crossing. They've said that's so calming. Absolutely, we need things to do that are kind of mindless and fun. And later on tonight, I'll be doing my bubble popping game. So absolutely. No
Okay.
judgment.
Thank you for that. And what do you say to a person who has a family member or they themselves lost their employment and they're in total despair right now? I mean, there's so much crap going on already between, well, we got COVID, we got the government factor and everything going on with politics. Now this person just lost a job a week ago. And how do they going to, keep themselves together?
So this is a hard thing, but this is a really a real thing that's happening to many people. I'm not too far from it. My husband was his position was eliminated not too long ago, so I can identify this is it's a really big challenge. What I recommend is having going back to that structure and that routine as you're transitioning out of being in a full-time job to having some structure and routine, and then doing some of these tools that I've shared. Will it help with the financial situation? No, but will it help you to stay calm or maybe stay a little bit more at peace while you're navigating the job market or looking for your next thing? Absolutely, it can be helpful. And also tap into any resources, contact United Way 211, et cetera, making sure that you know what you have in your community to lean on.
Okay. What do you do for care partners or caretakers, whatever, caregivers, whatever you want to call them, that are adding to your stress by they themselves being stressed, and it creates a whole bunch of arguing in the home?
I know, and then everyone's together so much more now, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what I recommend for caretakers too is to take time. One, there I know in our area we have really good caregiver education programs and caregiver support groups that are happening. So to tap into those, they're general caregiver support groups. They're not specific to MS in our area. But make sure that you're taking care of yourself. What are you doing each day to attend to your mental health needs? Are you do you need to see a counselor? And that's not a bad thing, but just making sure that each person is taking care of themselves. The caregiver often has the burden of taking care of their loved one and themselves, but if they don't take care of themselves, then they're not going to be able to take care of the person they love.
True. So what do you say to a person though that has been using sleep as a way to get away from it all and knowing that they're sleeping too much?
Okay. Yeah. So when I talked a little bit about holding pain lightly, I talked about numbing, right? How consuming alcohol or eating a lot more, has been vices for people. Also, sleeping too much can be a vice. And for someone that is sleeping because maybe this is depression, one, I would talk to your doctor about it and make sure that they do a workup to make sure that you're sleeping well, that your sleep hygiene is good. But if you're sleeping because you are sad, I want you to still talk to your doctor about it, because you may be experiencing a lot of extra depression. If you wanted strategies, I would have a routine. Some of the people that I've worked with, when all the pandemic hit, that really threw off people's routines, and with that being thrown off, they really didn't have a lot of guidance. And so having a routine has been a healthy way for many people. Like, you wake up at a certain time and have things to kind of guide you through the day.
Okay, thank you. All right, so another topic, good topic is, or not topic, but question, is finding how to cope best with isolation.
Mm-hmm.
For people that are not just living in urban areas, but those that are living in rural areas around the United States. I mean, it's hard enough to get together with family and friends out in the middle of between towns. They're feeling very isolated, and they're having to deal with everything going on in this current day.
Absolutely, and that is a big concern and a big challenge right now, as a lot of people are very socially isolated. What I recommend, and when I have many of the patients that I do that live alone, or don't see many people, is if they have the capacity to utilize video technology, I really encourage them to tap into some of the support groups that have turned to be video support groups during this time. Or our senior center has a incredible exercise program and enrichment program that's all going on virtually, that they reach out to people and connect to people. Also, in my area, and you could check your area too, we have like a friendly telephone call program. It's like a friendly visitor program, but it's just via telephone. But reaching out and letting people know that you're isolated is really, I think, the first step, and then seeing what can you do to help you feel less isolated during this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Catherine wrote in that she's got a lot to say, but I'm going to read it all, so it's going to be a little bit. All right, on a personal scale, one thing that I found very helpful to cope is to create a line of story beads. I decide what different kinds / colors mean. They each mean. They represent different events, from difficulties, moments, as well as particular joys, holidays, good people, or days when you felt a particular wonder or great love. I can tell and own a story of my time to look back and feel resilient. It gives me something to look forward to. Keeping up with this as a calm activity. It helped me with anxiety since I started this in 2020. I don't know if this might help someone else.
That is a great coping tool. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Okay, and then I haven't read this yet, but Trevor writes, thank you, Jessica and Stewart. A couple of years ago, I started working on my mental health. For me, journaling was a big help. Started with just a couple of minutes a day and slowly increased how much time and what I was writing about. After a few weeks, I went back and read what I had written, and it was fantastic. It really helped center me and come to grips with my life. I wouldn't be as strong as I am today without it.
That is a really good feedback, and I'm kind of hate that I didn't mention journaling myself. That's such a good
I do.
tool, yes. And so if you are wanting to journal, this is some good advice. As if you don't know where to start, there are some really good journal prompts that you can look up online. You can look up through Google, or you can start just with like my gratitude journal. Sometimes you can just bullet out a couple things that you're feeling. And if you're afraid, and this happens with many patients of mine, they're afraid to journal because they're afraid someone's going to see it. For those people, I recommend there is a journal app that you can download that's password protected. That's one option for the video tech savvy people. But there's another type of journaling that you can do where you can write down everything that you're feeling and your emotions, and then you can tear it up into like a bazillion little pieces. Because the process of journaling, it's for Trevor, it was really great because it was reflective. He can go back and see all the change that he made, but also it can be just a matter of getting it out. And doing that can be therapeutic, and you can tear it up into a million pieces where no one can see what you wrote, and then you got the opportunity to get it out and vent.
Great, thank you. All right. Going to go back and forth with a few different things here. Maureen wants to say 5-minute journal app is great. All right, thank you for that, Maureen. A guy named Bill wants to know if loud, obnoxious music is good for relaxing and meditation techniques, or if he should stick to classic music. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, so I'm going to tell you whatever helps you feel relaxed. You know what relaxed feels to you. I know what music makes me feel energized, and what music kind of winds me down. So I'm going to say whatever gives you a sense of feeling relaxed. We're like as individuals, we are our fingerprints.
Great, thank you. Impacts of MS on intimacy and relationships. Is there anything that you can say about this, please?
I will definitely say that, emotions and I've heard during this time, with all the different emotions that people are feeling, it's changing some intimacy or desire for intimacy for some people that I've worked with. We've talked a lot in sessions about improving communication and staying engaged with mental, wellness on both partners' side. But definitely emotion, like intimacy is a big thing, and it can often be a challenge with MS. And I encourage you to, there's really good literature and information on intimacy and MS, but there are some good communication tools and strategies. But also, I think it can go hand in hand. There's a physiological, physical part to intimacy that can be impacted, but sometimes it's an emotional thing too. So I definitely recommend, if you're struggling in that area, to talk with your doctor, and if it's a physical piece especially, but if it's an emotional piece, maybe speak to a counselor.
Okay, thank you. One or two last questions, and that is that, what do you think about yoga for gratitude?
I think that's a genius suggestion. I think yoga is a great way to relax, and it's a great way to practice mindfulness, and it's a great way to improve positivity. It's as a way to practice gratitude.
Great, thank you. All right, so wrapping it all up, putting it all together, what do you feel is like the number one tool to keep calm?
My number one tool to keep calm. I would say mindfulness and meditation. It would probably be my number one tool for people, kind of finding a way to slow down, finding a way to navigate, being very present in the moment and not in our heads, not in the news, not finding a way to calm our minds with being able to be mindful with what's in front of us. One technique is called grounding. So if you're in a state of anxiety or worry, or just discomfort. This one tool that you can do that if you don't have an app or don't have a meditation activity is called grounding. And another way to think of it is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have 5 senses. And what you do is you look around. What is one thing that you can see? What is something that you taste? What do you hear? Can you smell anything? And then I always, touch. And what is something that you can touch? And that can help bring you to kind of the present moment where you are in the place that you are. And that can help to clear your mind and at least prepare you for a meditation.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And, again, we wanted to thank you for being here today and working with us and educating those that are out there. And we're out of time now for any more for this evening. But again, Jessica, we would love to have you back in a few months, and maybe you'll have better things to report on about what's going on out there. And again, I want to thank everybody that's on here tonight. Please remember that on Tuesday, the 19th, we're going to do a Compass to Care program with Dr. Ben Thrower. All right. And then at the end of the month, we have Barry Talenti, one of the VPs from the National MS Society, will be on to speak about patient advocacy. We look forward to seeing you all. And Jessica, again, thank you for everything you've done this evening. I'm sure we had a large audience. We had over 90 people on here. All right. So that's great. And again, it'll be on our YouTube channel in hopefully less than a week. Okay. Thank you very much for everybody, and have a great night. Toodles.
Bye.